Our next topic is perspective. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me give you an example. So, perspective, in the sense that we're talking about it, is how you view certain events and things that happen to you, especially bad things that happen to you. Like everyone, when something good happens to them, the first thing they usually do is they think, well, it wasn't really up to me. It wasn't something that I did. It was just a bit lucky, and I guess that happened. Cool.
Fortune shone me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But when something bad happens to them, they give it so much meaning. Like, oh my God, like how could I be like? How could this happen to me? Or why does everyone hate me? Or why am I so bad? Or why am I blah, blah, blah?
My life is doomed, it's over, it's ruined.
All sorts of horrible things you think about yourself. And you know what? That's perspective. And people who are successful, people who are happy, positive, they tend to have this ability to filter their perspective. So they can change the way they look at something, especially when it's a bad thing. So for example, let's say you went for a job interview, right? You go for a job interview, you don't get it, and it's something you really wanted to do, your dream job, whatever it was, something you really had your heart set to do, and you thought you were going to get it. You don't get it. You feel pretty rejected, right? You feel like, well, what was the deal with that? Like, you make up excuses. Oh, maybe the guy didn't like me. Maybe this happened. Maybe that happened. Whatever you want to do. But one way you can turn this situation around is to go back, talk to the people that interviewed you, and ask them, why didn't I get this job? Ask them, and you know what? Most people will tell you honestly why you didn't get that job because they've got nothing to lose. Right? And if you're polite and if you come across someone who's genuinely interested in learning about themselves and improving, they can get the job. You will get a lot out of that.
And in fact, what you tend to find is that the reasons that you think you didn't get a job for are not the case, and they tend to be much more different. So an example might be is here you are thinking, oh, I didn't get the job because I'm just an absolute rubbish employee, or everyone else was way better than me. You might go in and you find that the reason you didn't get the job was because one of your qualifications didn't quite match up to one of their key selection criteria. As an example, now what you've been able to do is you've been able to take this bad event, and by actually asking what's happening and by applying perspective, you've been able to turn this into information. So this event's gone from being a bad event to being some information. And now with this information is absolutely priceless, because now that you have some information about the event which is a lot more objective than your negative perspective on it, you can turn this into a positive action.
That's right.
So in this example that we're giving here, you might take, so I'm not as qualified as I should be to get this job, but now I can go and have a look at some courses or a degree that might help me reach this qualification and achieve the dream that I'm striving for.
Oh, you know what? You might even find out that the person they hired has been working in that company for 10 years, and they almost saw it as a promotion, but they just had to advertise the job, and you happen to be one of the people that went for the interview. Like, it has no reflection on you.
Exactly. So in that situation, you might be as qualified as him, but he or she has 10 years more experience than you.
That's right.
Which
it's just a reward for that person. So, like, other things happen, right? It doesn't have to be about stuff like a job interview. Like, for example, you could be reversing out of a car park. You could reverse into a pool or into someone else's car, and I've seen people do this, right? They get so upset, they spend a whole week or a month, crying about the fact that they have to pay like a couple $100 to their insurance company or whatever, and how if someone hadn't called them, or whatever excuse they can make, right? But look, it's like minor stuff like that happens all the time, and the most important thing you can get out of that is to learn not to do that. I mean, I've done it so many times. Silly stuff like that costs a couple of grand to fix, and what you learn from that is it's not really a big deal. It's just money, and you being happy and you being positive does not have a correlation to that sort of little stuff. Like a couple of $100 is not worth being really upset about. So change your perspective on that.
Exactly. So I mean, I suppose to give you sort of the take-home message for this tip, what we're sort of saying is that what you might want to do is next time a bad event happens to you or something like that, try to take a step backwards from the event itself. Try to disassociate yourself from the event. Become the observer. Become the third person looking at it. Look at it as if you're looking at this event happening to someone else to which you have no emotional links with. Now this can be pretty hard to do at first. So something that you might need to do is you might need to just walk away from the event entirely. Just don't think about it. Go do something you enjoy. So be it sort of surfing or driving your cars or whatever it is that you like to do. Go do that. Once you've cooled down, come back, have a look at it. I think you're going to find a few things.
Don't drive your car when you're angry, by the way.
Actually, yeah, that's probably bad. Surfing's fine. There's not much you can hurt there except for yourself. and not as badly as in a car accident. But yeah, so there's a few things that you'll find. Like one is that you're going to realise that the event's not quite as bad as you expected it to be. It never is.
You always overreact instantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And two, you might get to the situation where you can say, well, actually, this has happened. But you might be able to see positive in it, or at the very least, you're going to see that it's not going to have a huge influence in your life.
That's right.
Another trick that you can do is you can look at it and go, is this going to have any bearing whatsoever on my life in 5 years' time? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
not a big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that covers what we want to talk about with our perspective session. And the next tip that we want to talk about is appreciation.
Okay, so let's move on to appreciation now.